There is a mystery on this earth that is older than mystery itself. A missing moment in our human evolution that has lasted more than 50,000 years. It is a time before time, and a time that will begin and end again. And this time of times is called the end of the earth. The civilizations of the earth are older than we know, and its inhabitants were greater than anything we could ever comprehend. They who were here before us were a strange and superior species. They were called human beings, and they looked just like you and I. They walked and talked like you and I, but they were far more intelligent than we are, and even more humbling. They were better than we are. Their knowledge was greater, and their gods were greater, and under the flesh of their skins, even their hearts were greater than our own. The years of the earth are many, but the days of man on it are few. The civilizations of mankind will always rise and fall, and so too does their knowledge. On the earth, more than 50,000 years ago, a vibrant and thriving civilization lived, and in an instant, life and everyone in it completely vanished. The memory of what was is entirely wiped away, and the earth is completely sterilized and cleansed of all knowledge of what was before. Every trace of mankind and its inhabitants are meticulously eradicated. It is called the E-cycle, and it is more than the cycle of life, and it is in fact the cycle of the earth. Mankind has walked this earth for more than 400 million years. And when we walked, talked, and breathed this beautiful plane of existence, we were all ultimately wiped out. In time, a new earth would begin, and a new life of mankind would again flourish. And in this new time of earth, there were lords, gods, and Christs, and the hearts of the children of men were beautiful and free. However, the dark days of the end would once again return, and the life of all mankind would utterly and perfectly be wiped out. There have been more than 30,000 versions of this earth, all beginning and ending in 5 to 10,000 year increments. Thousands of human civilizations rising, dying, and then rising again, only to die again. A cycle of life and death where the earth is ever changing and yet staying exactly the same. Cities, nations, and even continents of billions of people inexplicably disappearing without a trace. Today we have come out of the age of stones and into the age of technology and understanding. We are able to plot the movement of the planets and see deep into the great distant galaxies of the cosmos. We believe that we are at the height of intelligence and that there was none like us on the face of the earth. We consistently measure our new technological breakthroughs as the first ever created by man. We label all of our discoveries as a first for mankind, or never before seen on the earth. We all believe that we are the first to do anything technological or marvelous, and yet we have only left our savage beginnings a mere 5,000 years ago. It is a conundrum that each of us should ponder. We have no knowledge of anything that happened past 5,000 years on this earth. And as to our own future, we are absolutely clueless. We find old bones, shards of pottery, and carbon-dated signatures which tell us that there was a world here before our own. 30,000 years ago, a world of men, women, and children, living, loving, and thriving in life. And yet there is not one thing left to us that tells us what happened to them and what ended their earth. Our best science tells us that more than 5,000 years ago, we were all bearskin-wearing savages, uneducated, spear-wielding brutes, who were nothing more than dumb and dull-witted cave-dwellers. There could be nothing on earth as far away from the truth as this. Everything we have been taught of our history of man no longer exists, because, believe it or not, it never did. Our rise to intelligence created a rush to judgment and a flawed and arrogant story of our history. This miseducation is more than just a crime against our intellect. It is also a crime against humanity. It is greater than any other crime on the earth, because within the frame and structure of our world are heartbreaking and desperate clues left for each and every one of us by those who died over 45,000 years ago. Horrifying clues left by those who saw their end coming, and yet also knew that there would be new human beings coming to this earth after them. They left these magnificent intellectual paintings for the innocent and unknowing humans who would follow after them. They made each of these back-breaking and heart-rendering paintings for only one purpose. They made them for us. You think you know this story, and you're sure you have heard it all before. A story of cavemen and cavewomen writing on the walls of an ancient cave. An unsophisticated portrait of their daily life, and a life that is not very interesting at all. And yet, it is history. Prehistoric history. However, I caution you, because all that you know of history no longer exists, because that history never was. There is a holy and unnerving prehistoric story being told for the first time to each and every one of us. And this story was written in blood by those who came before us. It is they who were here and who survived just long enough to see what happens to all of us at the end of the world. They knew that they who came to end the earth would afterward cleanse it of every record of mankind, leaving no trace of anything that survived or anything that was human. These who survived ran into caves and took refuge there for as long as they could. And what they did after was the greatest and most beautiful thing any human being has ever done for another. They began painting. They recreated anything and everything they could to warn us about what happens when the earth dies. They did this knowing that the earth would be scoured of any trace of mankind. But these brave survivors created a hidden SOS message that could hide in plain sight, an ingenious communication, and every new earth and every new human being would see. Today we call this creation a cave painting, and its name is consistently associated with savagery and ancient diminished capacity. We see these cave paintings of horses, cows, hunters, aliens, and strange symbols of all sorts as some kind of fantasy by the prehistoric simpleton. We see it as a caveman fantasy or a slice of life depicting hunting and predation as they knew it. Our view of these cave paintings indicates that their final messages have completely escaped all eyes undetected, both enemy and friendly. Sadly, this overlooked, precious work of love and loss of life was made to be seen and deciphered by the next human beings who would come to this earth. They were made for us. These cave paintings that are found all over the world range in age from 3,000 years old to more than 40,000 years old. And unfortunately, we are all unaware of the fact that each of these well-detailed cave paintings were created by an artist who was in fear, who was in pain, and who was sobbing and crying uncontrollably while painting this intricate letter of letters. He and she, who painted so beautifully and so intelligently, created a painted work with a paint that would last not for 30 years, but instead with a paint that would last more than 30,000 years. This fact alone completely escapes all of us, and it has since the beginning of time as we know it. Contrary to what we have been taught, these were not cavemen, but instead they were technologically brilliant, and they came from a very sophisticated and highly intelligent society. Their choice of paint and placement clearly suggests that they had a full grasp of art, geometry, astronomy, science, and experience in transmitting discreet and clandestine communications. They were in fact just like us, and as smart as us, and surely even smarter than us. What they reveal with each painting suggests that they were more intelligent than we thought. They have not seen the faces of any of us, and yet they knew that we would come, and they knew that there would be a world after their own. They left these superior works of art in hallowed caves, and with each layer of paint, they prayed that one day we would see them, and more importantly, one day we would understand them. Sadly, these hopes and prayers were their last. Today their tears are gone, but their work is not forgotten. In 45,000 years, we can finally read them. The hope of their work is born in our age and in our days, because within each painting is a knowledge that is more important to mankind than anything else on this entire planet. It is sure that after a series of paintings, the artist was undoubtedly discovered, and as a result surely lost his life. But within each painting is an encrypted and hidden message that warns each and every one of us of what is to come. An unseen coat of paint that is so clever and so intelligent that even those with high intelligence completely dismiss it as the writings of a prehistoric hunter-gatherer. And yet it is in fact a perfection of end-time knowledge that is displayed openly and freely, and not one individual with high intelligence can detect its secret. Why? The painting's messages are protected by one of the most sophisticated encryption techniques ever seen. And once you begin to understand the message, your heart will nearly give out on you. All that was is no more, and all that follows is the beginning of our history. It begins here with a 30,000-year-old painting of what is simply a bull running through a field. Another bull follows in a circular pattern behind it. Although it appears to be a simple painting of a bull, closer inspections will reveal peculiar iterations of pattern which reveal that there is more to the painting than what is obvious. The bull is massive compared to the other animals beneath it. The bull also has strange dots going around its eyes and down its snout. The reason this painting escapes our intellect is because we have dismissed these peoples and their brains as underdeveloped. However, if you look closer at the bull, with the strange dots running around his eyes and down its snout, you will find that these are not dots. They are actually stars. The reason the bull is so much larger than all the other animals is because this bull is above all animals on the earth. Because believe it or not, this is actually the constellation of Taurus the bull. It is a heavenly bull that rotates around the earth, and if you look closely, you will see the stars running around its eyes and down its snout. It is identical to the constellation of Taurus. The bull that follows it in the upper right indicates that this constellation pattern is circular and that it rotates around the earth. If you have any doubt to the validity of this astounding discovery, consider this cave painting showing the same constellation of Taurus the bull. However, in this painting, the clandestine intent of the painter is unmistakable. Notice that this bull has horns that do not curl up, as most bulls do, but instead, they seem to stretch out into two perfect lines, almost as antennae. If you look to the constellation of Taurus, you will see that this bull's star points stretch out in the exact same way. They are straight and they are deliberate lines that stretch as far beyond the bull's horns to create the constellation's signature boundary. However, this animal and its design has far-reaching implications. Notice the bull's outline and boundary, and notice also it is the exact opposite direction of the former constellation of Taurus. This knowledge, when revealed in the end, will stagger the mind. Our prehistoric, bearskin-wearing and spear-throwing forefathers were not, and they left these messages so that one day we would understand, and understand we must, because our very lives depend on it. This beautiful and blood-soaked 30,000-year-old cave painting of a bison bull is also a representation of the constellation Taurus the bull. Within this painting is an even greater knowledge than the others, because this painting was made for those of us who will always believe the opposite of the truth, the naysayers, the doubters, and those who will only be convinced by their own mind as to the validity of anything and everything. This painting shows the constellation of Taurus, but if you look closer, you will see a bright light glowing just above its shoulder. If this bull is the constellation of Taurus, then this well-lit area must also represent something else that is found in space. This deduction would be logical, and it would be also correct. This star-like pattern above the bull's shoulder is in fact one of the most well-known constellations in the world. It is a constellation that rests within Taurus the bull, and it is the constellation of the Pleiades. It is a holy and sacred constellation of stars that has been handed down to every generation of man for over 5,000 years. This knowledge is found all over the world, and it was left to us by those who from the stars came. The Pleiades sits right above the shoulder of the bull, and in every constellation It is an exact match. Believe it or not, our end is not found on the earth, but instead it rests in the stars. Our understanding of these cave paintings are more important to our survival than anything else on the earth. And if you doubt these claims, ask yourselves, how did savages who had barely mastered the use of fire at the same time chart every star in our galaxy? Time is of the essence, and time we have little left. This 30,000-year-old painting on its face looks to be a large hyena. Most scholars believe this because of its long tail and the spots found on its body. However, there has never been a hyena with spots only on its shoulders and on its face. This is actually a prehistoric version of what the bear used to look like 45,000 years ago. The bear was large and was also known to have a long tail. Today's version of the bear does not. This bear has spots and specks on it, and believe it or not, the specks on its fur are in fact stars. And this is the constellation of the Bear. We know it as the Big Dipper, and it is one of the most famous and easily identified star constellations in the northern hemisphere. If you look deeper at the painting, the story and the confirmation is even more conclusive. This 35,000-year-old cave painting shows horses running alongside the constellation of Taurus the Bull. And believe it or not, the great horse that runs in the sky alongside the bull is called Pegasus. It is a mythical winged horse that travels the cosmos beside Taurus the Bull. Every stylized and artistic animal represents a coded message for the new incarnation of man on the earth. A rhino is just a rhino until you see a new, perfect 360-degree curvature of its horns, and then suddenly it becomes something else. It shows us something else, and it reveals wisdom. This well-encoded message actually gives us a complete understanding, and the understanding is that these animals are in space, and they border planets, stars, and suns. Our cave painters display a supreme understanding of the skies, the stars, and the constellations. However, your hearts will falter as we begin to go deeper and deeper into the cave of a people whom we all believed to be Neanderthal and Cro-Magnon brutes. Each of these cave paintings show us how they saw the cosmos, and each painting provides a Rosetta Stone for our understanding. A bull, a horse, a bear, or any painted animal that is found to have specks or dots painted within it means that it is more than just an animal, and it is in fact a star constellation or cluster of stars that is in our Earth's sky or also found somewhere out in space. This decryption method allows us to peer into the minds of the prehistoric human being. Understanding this codex will in no way give you peace, because this cave's knowledge is very, very deep. Upon the walls there are pictures of colored hands and more hands. And they all represent human beings of every race, both male and female. But look closely at these ubiquitous, strange, and peculiar hands. These particular hands are not like the others, and they all have star dots just below their fingers. Dots and specks that indicate that this is a constellation of stars within our cosmos. This handprint is unique, as the dots are surrounding the hands and are all fiery red, which indicates something in our cosmos is near its grasp. a painting humble and true, and its knowledge is staggering, because as we go farther and farther into space, we find a hand, and not just any hand, a very special hand, one surrounded with white clouds and also fiery red stars. It is a hand unlike any hand we've ever seen before, and it is singular in its importance, because we call this stellar pulsar wind nebula the hand of God. It is both stars and clouds, and right within its grasp is a red, fiery hot constellation of stars and gas and clouds. Unbelievably, we have recently discovered this constellation, and it is so far away from Earth that it is impossible for prehistoric man to have ever have seen it. Ever to have seen it without this. This image is only visible to us via the very powerful Hubble telescope. How is this possible? How can this be? This is the singularity of enlightenment, and this is where we begin to accept the impossible, the unbelievable, and ultimately the inevitable. Paleolithic, Cro-Magnon, Neanderthal, ape-man, and caveman. And yet 40,000 years ago, they saw the same star constellations we see today. They saw the same star patterns we see. And they named them after the exact same animals that we named them after today. And now they see the hand of God, a sight impossible to see without evolution and a very high technology. More importantly, it is the same sight we see today, and yet 40,000 years ago, this technological race of superhumans were wiped out. At the understanding of this knowledge, many of us will retreat and succumb to a disease known as cognitive dissonance. Its symptoms appear when faced with a knowledge that is so intense and so overpowering to the mind that the brain will suddenly retreat into a previous and happier cognitive disposition. A time that existed right before the moment where you understood it. You will say, they are no different from any other ancient culture we've ever seen. And you will say to yourself, this couldn't possibly be true. All who feel this way will be utterly broken. For what comes next is the end of every intelligent doubter in the world. Because what comes next will completely stun the brain into paralysis. The cave paintings not only show that prehistoric man could see deep into space, it also shows something else even more unbelievable. These paintings show that they could also see the Earth from space. A highly intelligent being will function on multiple levels of intelligence, and thus one message sent will be built upon several hidden messages, which to the uninitiated will appear to be one innocuous, benign painting of a farm animal. Nevertheless, a close inspection of each painting will reveal several messages layered within each color of paint. We see Taurus the bull, and we know it is a star constellation. But laying all across each star constellation are splashes of yellow and golden paint. Look again. Closer. Closer. These are not splashes of artistic styling, and to the contrary, these are actually land formations, pieces of our Earth as it looks from space, continents, countries, city-states, and favored lands. How we know this is by the uniformity of its presence in each painting around the world, and what reveals its code is found here. Consider this painting. You see the land mass beneath the constellation of stars. Look closer. This is a twig or blade of grass. Notice its color and its uniformity in relation to land and earthbound animals, as opposed to starlight animals. It matches the exact color of land in every single cave painting around the world. This is the color of the cave painting. This is actually a satellite image of our world. Notice the color is an exact match. And land in every cave painting is the exact same color as our satellite imagery. The stonework of our dull-witted, unevolved forerunner to our current perfection of evolution reveals not that they were ignorant, but instead, we are. 35,000 years ago, Cro-Magnon man created a crude painting in rock that is seen as a futile attempt at artwork. We now know that these highly intelligent human beings were sending us an encrypted message that we would only understand on the day that we would evolve. Look closer. Closer. This is a view of the world from above. Notice how small man is in each of these cave paintings. In order for man to be seen this way, it must be from a very, very high vantage point. They are showing us the way our land looks from above. And although our intelligence tells us that this is just a painting, look very closely. Notice that all the animals seen seem to have white spots underneath or splashes of white near or around them. When you understand why, you will know it's over. You see these juvenile cave paintings of animals and then quickly dismiss them as the markings of our uninteresting progenitors. But wait, look closely. Although it is as boring as the others, this painting reveals our connection to our distant relative, and it proves what is impossible. This is not a cave painting. Although it is identical to all cave paintings around the world, its revelation is found in understanding why it's exactly like all the others. It's exactly like all the other cave paintings because these are actually satellite images taken from space, and the specks of white are actually the animals themselves. They're found in every single cave painting, and we always wonder why there's splashes of white. The white is actually the animal. The black image, which we believe to be the painting, is merely a shadow created by the sun. It is identical to images painted in caves, and this is how and why they painted such boring images, because they knew one day we would understand. The cave painter was not painting what he saw of his daily life. He was painting several satellite images, and they were painting them all over the world for one reason and one reason only. They were painting them for us. Each painting screams from deep into the cave, and it says, "Listen to us, and know that we were here, and we were just like you. Please, Hear us. Please understand. We must understand them because these satellite images are tomorrow's cave paintings. They carefully chose caves for their clandestine messages because the cave simulates that which cannot be captured on film: depth and terrain. The rocky surface of each cave creates valleys, ridges, and mountains. And why this is so important is because this story will reveal to all of us that these cavemen and women were technological, and these images are created from satellite photography. Consider this 35,000-year-old painting and notice the rocky surface. Notice the white coloring running down its middle. This isn't white coloring. This is a message. This is Earth from above. And these hazy streaks of white are actually clouds. And these images can only be seen like this from space. Animals were used to identify star constellations. And believe it or not, they are also used to identify earthbound land formations. These are not cave paintings. These are satellite images. Cave paintings which not only reveal terrain, they also reveal geological imaging. Land and its formations from space is very important to whomever will come after us on Earth. Because in each Earth, our land formations and our races and cultural ethnicities will recreate them. We will again begin in one part of the world, and then with time, we will gradually spread across the world. We humans who were Asians in the next world will conquer Asia. We who are Africans will feel drawn to Africa. And as it is in the world, it will begin again, and in the next. This is why these paintings are so important, because in the end, it ends the same. This cave painting, taken from high above what appears to be cattle, is in fact our greatest clue to what happens to us in the end. The reason this painting of cows and bulls is so important to us is because these are not cows and bulls. They are actually stars, constellations, and more importantly, they also are countries and continents. From the earth, ancient man looked into the sky and saw stars, and they made animals to represent each star constellation. But they also did something else, more dramatic than any of us could ever imagine. While in space, looking upon the earth, in the darkness, our land formations light up. And from space, our earth looks like the sky. And in each city around the earth, it lights up. And what they did when they looked upon the earth, each country, each continent, each city-state, they made an animal to represent it. And if you look very closely at these bulls, you'll understand why they're the opposite direction of the constellation of Taurus the bull. They are pointing the opposite direction because these are not the constellation of Taurus the bull. They represent a star constellation of Taurus the bull that is found on the earth. It represents a country, a continent, or a city-state. It also represents a powerful clue as to why their world ended 20,000 years ago. It is a highly specific message encoded within the mundane. It is placed there with the hope that someone will come 50,000 years later who will understand. This particular bull tells us more about their end than anything else. And it also tells us where this bull is found. They use brilliant colors in this nearly 10,000-year-old cave painting to give us our greatest clue as to why and what kills us in the end. Notice the gold, red, blue, and yellow signatures among the rocky surfaces. These colors represent something that we are just now realizing that is a critical piece of our development and also the knowledge of our end. These brilliant colors represent satellite thermal imaging. They also reveal severe climate change, a geological record of a bull or landmass that was critical to our ancestors' understanding of the end. This land formation, however, has a very familiar appearance, and it also reveals a cycle of not only the rise and fall of man, but also the inescapable inevitability of repeating the same mistake over and over again. Notice the rocky terrain and its vibrant colors. And now, a geological image. This represents a continent and a nation, and its vibrant colors indicates superior knowledge. And now, a geological image. And now, a thermal image. It is unmistakable. 20,000 years ago, they were us. We are coming to the end of our journey as human beings, and these depictions, however outlandish you may think, are in fact a warning. Nevertheless, the display of technology is not confined to the magnificence of space and the macro lens of life. This cave painting is found on nearly every continent, and on its face, it appears to be a stylized depiction of a deer. But then, look again at the strange structure coming from its antlers. This structure is a strange and clearly audacious message sent to all of us. And this message completes the SOS transmission sent to our world. This geometric shape is unlike all other cave paintings, and this creation cannot be found in space or even on land. No, this particular object is not a grand and sprawling vision of creation, but is instead an intricate and complicated article that is very, very small. This symbol found coming out of the deer's head is actually a part of the synaptic structure of the human brain. Not only did they see the large bodies of the earth and the cosmos, they could also see the microscopic, the inner workings of the human being, animals, and insect. This symbol is in every living brain on this earth, and it is the most important symbol of all, because this buck represents man. And in the end, mankind is taken. Their world was our world, and what we are today, they were 45,000 years ago. And this knowledge of all knowledge finds us only in the end. And what comes next is inevitable. The ending of our world. The first man created on earth was created in Africa. And he who created us always returns to the ones he created first. The hands painted all over the world are a warning, which tells everyone who comes after them how the world ends. All signs of our end begin here. This is the most ubiquitous symbol ever created on this earth. It is found as a painting or as a carving, and it is in every country and every cave in the world. It is the last clue and the last warning given, and contrary to what the experts tell us, it does not mean galaxy, And it is not an alien message. It is actually a human message. And in the end of every world, it is the last message ever sent. And it is African. This ringed symbol, surrounded with wildlife and the hands of our ancestors, is actually called each handprint represents colors, peoples, and nations. In the end, our religions and our beliefs give way to living, dying, and fighting for each other as human beings. Africa, the place of our birth, is where we began, and it is also where it all ends. Civilization and technology rises and flourishes, and the varied races of human beings spread all across the globe. And then suddenly, and with very little warning, the earth and its every human inhabitant completely vanishes. Cities, nations, and even continents of billions of people inexplicably disappear without a trace. Our only clues to what happens in the end are found on the walls, hidden in old tunnels and caves. The greatest knowledge on earth disguised as a simpleton's ramblings or a dim-witted cave dweller's attempt at art. For 45,000 years, we have all believed that this is what we were and that this is where we came from. And even more humiliating, we also believed that this is what we look like. A history written and handed down to us by our most intelligent scholars, and also a history that never existed. Today we believe that we are at the height of human achievement. We now know that we aren't. We now know that they weren't the uninteresting, monotonous savages that we were taught. And sadly, after truly admitting this to oneself, we realize we are. They didn't look like this, and they never looked like this. Their world was highly educated and technological, and their works provide an understanding of supreme spirit and heart. They saw the end coming, and before they died, they did everything they could to tell the next civilization of human beings what happens at the end of the world. Each of these paintings carry an encrypted technological blueprint of the cosmos. And the reason they left these works to us is because they are the only things on this earth that can save us. Everything they left to us is a clue, and every painting and placement of it carries an encrypted message. All of the painted star constellations are hidden within a tunnel or cave. And the reason they did this is because, in order to get to these constellations, we as humanity must enter caves. We lack the expertise and the length of years to make it to the Andromeda Galaxy, which is 2.5 million light years from the Earth. Then again, if you enter the right tunnel in space, you will get there in only a few months. Today we call these tunnels wormholes, and once in them they resemble caves. You will quickly pass from one constellation to another, and then suddenly you're there. It is science fiction and yet science fact. And how we know this is because this message comes from human beings who lived more than 40,000 years ago. They reached out to us from the past and crossed thousands of years of time to touch our hearts and give light to our eyes. They achieved what we achieved, and their technology of the past is the same technology we find so supreme today. Everything we're doing now, they did 45,000 years ago. And sadly, they were completely wiped out. Why? Because this is as far as we go as human beings. We reach a particular stage of development and understanding, and then we are taken from this earth. The religions of the world teaches that in the last days of the earth, we are all taken. This is true. But contrary to what the world teaches, the world does not end because man is evil. We are not taken from the earth because of our sins or transgressions against our brother. We are not taken for our misdeeds or our thefts or our murders. No. In the end, we are taken from the earth and from the tree of life for one reason and one reason only. And it is not for our sins and not for our transgressions. In the end, we are plucked from the tree of life and from the branches of our earth when our flesh has ripened with knowledge. It doesn't matter how hard we try or how hard we cry. We never go any further than this. No matter how great our tears, our journey as human beings ends. No matter what we do, there's nothing we can do to change it. Nothing except one thing. Our only hope, believe it or not, is found in Nazca, Peru. The Nazca lines were created specifically for this moment in our human evolution. Only now will we truly understand what is in the sand and the dirt. And now we must understand them, because the Nazca lines actually tells us how to save our earth. A sophisticated encrypted message of sand and dirt actually tells us what and where to go in order to save ourselves. Because in the lines of Nazca, there is the knowledge of the Stargate. The Stargate is real, and to enter into it is to cross millions of light years of space in an instant. A Stargate, a gateway into the cosmos, and finding it and mastering it is the next part of our human story. It is the hope of our God and the glory of our flesh. Because if we are wise enough to attain it, we will do what no other earth before us has ever done. Live. Nevertheless, in the sands of Nazca, near the Stargate, there is one thing that awaits us, and we must first find a way around it. Because one strange thing on the plains of Nazca is waiting for us to come. As soon as we get close to it, it will strike. It is the precipice of our destruction, and it is also the summit of our evolution. The ancient Babylonians and Sumerians wrote of strange beings coming down to the earth. The Mayans, the Israelis, Egyptians, Africans, Asians, Europeans, and peoples on every continent have written stories of strange star-like beings coming down from the sky. The world is as it was 5,000 years ago. This is also our world today. The UFO phenomena is no longer a phenomenon. It is no longer accompanied with disbelief, or even worse, with laughter. The preponderance of evidence is overwhelming, and the age-old question asking, "Do you believe in UFOs?" is now replaced with, "How can you not believe in them?" The evidence is unequivocal, a truth you cannot run from. In a day where there'll be no place to hide. UFOs are here, and they are now. And this time, they are here to answer our greatest question that has dumbfounded every scientist and every ufologist in the world. We know they are here, and we know they have been here for thousands of years. But the burning question is, why are they here? This question has never been answered before, because none of us were here before, which is the reason we don't know why. The knowledge of why they are here is more important than believing they are here. Because believe it or not, we now have that answer, and it is an answer that will create great discomfort in you. And at the same time, it will completely free you of fear, doubt, and unbelief. In 2014, a strange alien message was discovered in nearly every UFO video in the world. A coded alien message interlaced within every frame of home video. A broadcast alien message, and yet it is also a human message. This method of contact requires our patience, our understanding, and most of all, our intelligence. They are speaking to us in the universal language, and the universal language is star constellations. Each video is actually a brilliant conversation between the alien and the human life. And once you are wise enough to make the connection, the evolution of human beings begins. If we slow down the frames and stop the frames, you can see what they're saying. They are talking to us. They are reaching out to us, and they are welcoming us into the heavens, into the cosmos, and into the places of creation where mankind is not allowed. For those of us who do not understand the universal language, you are in luck, because these beings are not just speaking to us, they are also teaching us. These UFO home videos are clearly our greatest wealth of knowledge, because when we see it, slow it down, and reverse it, these options open the cosmos, and it also opens our minds. Each of these UFO formations are establishing contact. This UFO formation is what looks like a man holding up his hands, but it is actually the star constellation called Cygnus. Notice how the star points are an exact match. This UFO formation, to the uninitiated, is merely a number of UFOs in a circle. Look again. It is in fact a precise match to the constellation Quadrant Radiant Constellation. Today they want to be seen, and they want each and every one of us to know they are here. They are here, and they are with us, and they are here for only one purpose and one purpose only: contact. These three UFOs are arrayed in a long triangle, and they mirror the Triangulum constellation. Its shape and geometry clearly reveals that these two symbols are linked together by design. This square and unusual UFO is actually the constellation Pegasus, the Great Square. However, the most ubiquitous UFO sign ever seen is this. This is the constellation of Orion's belt. And no matter how many UFO videos you have ever seen, this is always the first thing they do, and it is also the first thing they say. These three UFO lights represent three stars, and this is actually an alien greeting. It is a greeting because nearly everyone on Earth knows what it means and where to find this constellation in space. Extraterrestrial beings are coming to this Earth on a daily basis and in record numbers. They are establishing contact in every part of our world. They are found all over the Earth in different forms and in different shapes. They show up as a single UFO, and then two, and then three, and then sometimes in incalculable numbers. They are now all over the world, and although we see them, photograph them, and record them, we still believe we need to send radio waves into space to find them. Call it stupidity or call it arrogance, but the fact is, we have been doing it all wrong. Nearly 40 years ago, we sent this not-so-sophisticated message into space. It is called the Golden Record. And in 1977, it accompanied the Voyager probe, which searches out alien life and our outer planets. We sent it with a phonographic record because we were sure that an intelligent being would understand how to play it. How many of us today actually have a phonograph record player? And now think, how many aliens would? A lost hope and a lost cause. But then again, maybe not. The acronym SETI stands for Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. We are constantly looking out into space when all the time they are right here and right before our eyes. And more importantly, they are looking at us. They have been reaching out to us for more than 50 years. They are speaking to us in a very sophisticated and enlightened language, and for 50 years, none of us has cracked the code. None of us knows why they're here or what they want, and yet they are speaking to us every day. Star constellations are how you navigate the cosmos. It is how you cross the millions of light years of space. And star constellations alone is how you first communicate with an alien race. Many of us believe that our earthly view of our star constellations would look different to aliens approaching our Earth, and that our view of the starry sky is different from theirs, which would mean that this couldn't possibly be true. All who believe this have forgotten a basic, fundamental mathematical formula, because contrary to what you think, our star constellations look exactly the same from space as they do on Earth. The only difference is this: a star pattern from the view of Earth, and now a star pattern from a spacecraft approaching Earth. The only difference is that the pattern of stars is reversed, and this reversal, when displayed by the UFOs, is actually their way of showing us the direction from which they have come to our planet. For those of us who believe in this error of understanding, which says that the star patterns we see on Earth are completely different from what they see in space, these statements are not true, and unfortunately, not very intelligent. Simple trigonometry and geometry solves this problem by creating what is called triangulation. This is a process of measuring and determining a point and location and view by measuring its angles from 3 known points of reference on a map. This is what is called intelligent communication, and triangulation of Earth, spacecraft, and sky will produce an Earth view of all constellations. Unbelievably, what we are seeing in the UFO footage from around the world is in fact alien communication. And what we are actually seeing is called intelligent contact. Triangulation is the key, and they are using this formula, and they are speaking to us in the universal language. And the universal language is star constellations. Nearly 20 years ago, they came to us, and they came to us in a specific time when they knew we would all be looking to the skies. The Hale-Bopp comet was to make an appearance, and on that day, every American was looking. On this day, they knew that if they appeared, there would be many witnesses, and that there would be no doubt to their existence. These UFO beings have knowledge of our ways, our behaviors, and our knowledge. They knew that on this day, if they appeared, there would be so many witnesses that there would be no doubt as to their existence. On March 13th, 1997, Phoenix, Arizona. It will go down in history as one of the most documented sightings ever seen. Thousands, over 10,000 witnesses, and they all said it appeared and appeared on a grand scale. And when it appeared above Earth, it began speaking to mankind. What we saw were lights and disappearing lights. What we didn't see was the communication. In this video, you will see the first thing they said. It is the constellation of Orion. It is a consistent theme throughout the world. Every UFO that appears, that is the first thing they say. And these 3 lights actually means greetings, children of Earth. Their appearance deliberately coincided with a starry sky event so that there would be no question as to the validity of their reality. To this day, it is the most talked about UFO sighting ever seen. But look closely at what is said. The first thing they did was to array themselves in a near-perfect sphere of 8 and 9 symmetrical lights, with a bright light far away from the others. These lights may seem to be nothing more than lights to the uninitiated, but what actually took place was supreme intelligence. The 9 and then 8 lights represents the 9 planets of our own solar system. They hold this formation for a number of seconds and then the ninth light goes out, leaving only 8 remaining, and one bright light far away. The bright light that is apart from the other 8 represents our sun, and the 8 remaining lights also represent our solar system. This subtlety clearly reveals that they are aware of our enduring argument as to whether Pluto is actually a planet or not. So for many of us, there are 8 planets in our solar system, and for others, there are 9. This message clearly means we know you. We know your planet, Earth. And we know your planets in your solar system, and also your disagreements about them. Then they return to the constellation of Orion, which means greetings. However, because this Orion is from Earth's view of the sky, the UFO does something else that is unmistakable. They reverse the configuration of the stars of Orion, which means this is the direction from which we have come. To all who see this, they are completely dumbfounded by what they're doing. What is more disturbing is the witness accounts of those who saw it up close and in person. Everyone who saw this craft got a very unique view of what was in the sky. They all said it was massive, and many ran into their homes and did something that was astounding. For those who did not have cameras, they got out a pen and paper and began to draw pictures of what they saw. And every drawing looked like this. A massive triangle with 1 light in each corner and 3 slightly off-center lights at the apex or tip of the triangle-shaped UFO. However, remember that everything a UFO does is for intelligence, and it is also to uplift our own intelligence. They appear to be here for the purpose of taking us to the next level of our evolution. Look again at the drawing of this UFO and notice 2 lights, 1 in each corner at the bottom of the UFO, and the 3 slightly off-center lights at the top. This UFO is sending us a message, because believe it or not, this message is a more perfect message than the first. And when you see its knowledge revealed, it is staggering. This UFO is actually telling us to look closer, because believe it or not, this drawing of the UFO and its formations of lights is not a UFO. It's actually the greater constellation of Orion. Notice how these lights correspond exactly to the constellation of Orion. And also notice how the 3 stars on the top are slightly off-center. Orion, children of men, is where we must go. It is where the journey of mankind begins, and it is ultimately where it all ends. This is a UFO video from Lubbock, Texas. And in this video, an intellectual and repeating message that is unmistakable. This is not the belt stars of Orion like the others, but instead, look closer. This is the greater Orion, the entire star constellation. This UFO message is so deliberate and so without doubt that only the slowest among us will be baffled. The reason Orion is so important is because of where it leads. Each formation of UFO lights are a form of communication. Watch. Did you understand it? Look again. This represents Triangulum constellation. And this is the constellation of Orion. These two are linked together for one reason. They are one, and they are holy knowledge that is found in the holiest place on earth. And these three represent supreme intelligence, and they are called the pyramids of Egypt. The reason they are here is the most humbling reason you will ever come to understand. When you understand it, you'll know that there is nothing we can do. The UFOs are here, and they display star constellations as their mode of communication. They chose star constellations because they answer every unbeliever and skeptic alike, because these stars are eternal, and they are also proof. The twinkling in the night sky opens the minds of every man, woman, and child. And we all, at one time or another, have looked into the eyes of the stars and asked, where do we come from? Why are we here? They are here, they are real, they are answering every single one of our questions. They are providing us with undeniable proof and also undeniable truth. In the end, you will find it is the proof we can accept. But the truth will be so hard and so heavy that scarcely not one of us will be able to bear it. This video capture is from a nighttime UFO sighting in Highland, Utah, 2012. And what is important about this nighttime UFO sighting is its color. UFO color is the major mode of speaking, as it can send a greater message than that of the light of stars. With colors, they're able to convey a message of not just star constellations, but also galaxies. In this photo is a UFO, and on the right is an actual satellite image of Andromeda Galaxy. The message is unequivocal, as these two photos are nearly identical. Star constellations are not the end game. They are actually the opening of the games. This is where we leap from the stars that surround our Earth to the unknown and the deep, dark places within the outer reaches of our galaxy. This is a UFO. This is Andromeda. Notice the color and also its orientation against the sky. It is a sophisticated and intellectual overture to human beings. And although we believe that they are reaching out to us from some unknown territory in space, their intimate knowledge of our world indicates that they already know us. These are UFOs. These are still photos of various galaxies and constellations. Notice, they are an exact match. They are not dancing lights in the sky. They are actually establishing contact. Galaxies, constellations, and twinkling stars are not the only things they use to communicate with us. They have another method of contact, and when you truly understand it, you will know exactly how ill-prepared we are to receive it. UFOs now have a new approach for stunning mankind into belief. This method is so powerful and so undeniable that no doubter has an excuse to explain it. Extraterrestrials do not rely on 3 or 4 vehicle formations anymore. And instead of sending 1, 2, or 3 UFOs, the aliens now send hundreds. We call this phenomena a swarm. And although it staggers the minds and baffles the intellect, its message to the wise is unmistakable. Are always interlaced with streams and clumps of clouds. This is not by accident, and the clouds are on purpose, and they are necessary to convey one of their greatest messages. This message is not as small as a star or a galaxy. No, this message is made to convey the birth of something that is unknown to us. And it is also to goad us into leaving this earth. This UFO swarm is actually called a nebula, and it is also a star nursery. Its meaning and its purpose couldn't be clearer. They are beckoning us into the cosmos and to a place where it all began, a place where we were born. The hearts of human beings are full of trepidation, but you will find in the end, as fearful as we are of taking this step, the sadder we will all become when we realize we don't have a choice. If you are one who chooses disbelief because it is uncomfortable, then gather yourselves, because what comes next is very, very uncomfortable. November 7th, 2006, Chicago, Illinois, at Chicago's O'Hare International Airport on a Tuesday afternoon. Federal authorities received eyewitness accounts from airport employees, pilots on the grounds, and hundreds of witnesses who stated they saw a saucer-shaped disc, a UFO, hovering over gate C-17. Air traffic controllers, airport employees, and federal authorities all confirmed that this disc-shaped UFO event did in fact take place. Recorded FAA transmission and radar confirm a cylindrical, unidentified aircraft was found hovering above O'Hare's boarding gate C-17. This news was so powerful it was covered by every major news network organization in the world. According to witnesses, everyone who watched this event suddenly gasped in affright as the object shot straight up through the clouds. It ascended at such a high velocity that it left a clear blue hole within the cloud itself. This story has fascinated every UFO enthusiast in the world, and yet we as humanity have yet to make the connection. The connection begins here, and here, and here. These are stars, nebula, and galaxies. And to all of us, this is all they are. However, to our astronomers and scientists, they are something else. When UFOs appear above our Earth, they are well aware of each and every one of us who are filming them and photographing them. They are here to increase our knowledge of their presence. And when a UFO sits above gate C-17, they do it for a deliberate reason. This story has fascinated every UFO enthusiast in the world, and yet we as humanity have yet to make the connection. The connection actually begins here, and here, and here. These patterns in space are actually called NCs and NGCs. The formal name, New General Catalog, NGC, and also the more relaxed and shorter term is known as New Catalog of Stars, or NC. These letters are abbreviations for astronomical catalogs of stars, galaxies, and nebulae. UFO messages are consistently associated with the NC and NGC places in our view of space. Triangulum, Andromeda, Tree of Life or Perseus, Orion, and Cassiopeia are all cataloged galaxies as NC or NGC. Unbelievably, NGC or NC-17 is a constellation that is also found in our cosmos. And its association and meaning will send shivers through your spine. And NC-17 is the meaning of its appearance above C-17.